Hello and welcome to this week's Different League show, sponsored by Betfred. The Premier League is back and we are absolutely delighted. Lots to look forward to and lots to look back on in what has been a very busy week, especially for Gareth Southgate. Delighted to say alongside me the Racing Post's very own Mark Langdon, and we have Aston Villa legend Gabby Agbonlahor. Gabby, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you guys?
Very good indeed.
It's hard watch, wasn't it, the England game? So hopefully the Premier League's better.
At this time of the year, just leading into the start of a season, does it make you feel that you miss playing at all, or not?
Yeah, I think not when I see them running on their Instagram stories and they're covering 10 kilometres a day in pre-season training. I don't miss that, but definitely when you see the players getting ready to start the season, you know, you reminisce of when you had that buzz of the season starting on Saturday. You know, we need to get off to a good start. You want to score your first goal as a striker because, you know, as long as it goes on, you're going to get some sticks. So, yeah, I do miss that part of it, but not the running part.
No, I'm with you. This is probably my most nervous part of a season as a player because you have that sense of anticipation where you don't really know where the season's going to go. You just want to start well. Once it's started, then you're in it.
Exactly. You just want it as a striker and maybe wingers and midfielders as well. You want that first goal. I mean, if you go 3-4 games without a goal as a striker, you've got like pundits after you. So I feel like as a striker, it's always important to get that first goal. If you can get it on the first day of the season, you're flying.
As twice he's mentioned getting his first goal, pundits after him. I wonder if he's going to be after a few players this season.
I'm a friendly pundit, mate. I'm a friendly one.
What are you expecting? What are you hoping for from this season, Mark?
I'm hoping that the players don't become massively fatigued by this curtailed, really shortened season. So I'm hoping that we see the best of the football. And actually, people were very sceptical at the start of the lockdown football, and it didn't go great, I don't think, those first couple of weeks. But once the players got used to it and they got their fitness up, it didn't really feel that different. So we hope the crowd come back as soon as possible. But if they don't, I feel like the players are more used to it now, and we maybe won't see too much of that kind of June football that we saw at the back end of last season.
OK, before we look ahead to the weekend's games, let's look back, shall we, Gabby? And only one place to start, that's off the field, of course. Mason Greenwood and Phil Foden getting sent home after breaking COVID rules, bringing 2 girls into the hotel. As someone who had the odd misdemeanour, but I'm not saying you did anything like that at all, Gabby.
Yeah.
What did you make of it?
Listen, it's hard for me to say too much bad things about them guys because, like you says, you know, I had a lot of things that happened off the field as well. And I feel like sometimes people don't realise that when you're away with the England team, sometimes you can get quite bored, and you know you're away for maybe 12 days. You can get quite bored, and these lads have probably thought to themselves, they're young, maybe they've made their debuts, they're big players at their clubs. Maybe they could get away with it. They've got caught, maybe not realised, been a bit naive of like how serious it is. I mean, even if COVID wasn't here, you'd still get sent home for an offence like that because I remember being in England squads and you had like 6 FBI-looking agents on each corridor of the hotels. So I don't know how they've even got anyone in because
Tom Cruise
even if you wanted to get someone in back in the day when I was in the squad, you couldn't anyway.
Yeah.
It wasn't even on your mind. You couldn't even sneak in a McDonald's if you wanted one in back in them days. So I don't know how they've managed to work it, but I think that once dust has settled, they think to themselves, what have we done here? And if someone said to you a week ago, Phil Foden and Mason Greenwood were 2 players in that squad that would have done something like this, you'd be like, no chance. Because they look like quiet lads, don't they? That like never had anything bad said about them, concentrating on their football. So I think for me and like probably Southgate, it's just a bit of shock really. And I think they'll learn from it. And a bit naive and amateur really from them too, I'd say.
It's the quiet ones you need to watch out for.
Exactly.
With all the modern technology and social media around, how did they think they'd get away with it?
Well, I think it is that naivety sort of factor there. I also like the fact that Southgate hasn't completely hammered them. I mean, they've made a mistake. They went out of the squad. They probably won't get back in for the next squad. And it's something I think that Southgate will hope probably come the Euros, because they could be important players by then for the Euros. I think I'm not mad on Southgate, some of the tactical things that he does, but I think in terms of the way that he's actually managed the squad off the pitch, I think he's done very well in that regard. And he's never totally hammered the players. When they've done wrong, he's been very firm with them. He's got rid of them out of the squad. Raheem Sterling had an issue, didn't he, with Gomez, but he doesn't hold grudges, and that feels like, and I don't think it matters if it's football or any kind of boss, you can't hold grudges against people.
Don't you think that, like, because they're so young and it's their first squad, they won't get as much backlash as if it was a 27-year-old who's been in 20 squads? It's unexcusable, isn't it? Because you know what's expected of you. These lads, it's their first squad. They might have been doing it maybe in under-21s and got away with it. They probably thought they could do it here and not got away with it. So I think it's a learning curve for them, They get their fines, and then for me, I'd have them back in the squad. Like, that's your one chance you've got, and you've lost it, and then don't let it happen again.
Yeah. The little smirk he had there showed that perhaps something happened in the under-21.
I can't say.
Let's talk on the pitch, shall we? What did you make of the two games?
For me, I feel it's hard to judge these players. They've not played any competitive games so far. So for me, they were quite poor games. But if you give these players 5-6 games in the Premier League, and then they played these two games, would have been a total different game. So as much as the games were poor, I feel like you can't judge the players because it's like a pre-season game, really. So they're getting used to playing again, getting the sharpness back. I mean, if you look at Harry Kane, in a month's time, you'll see two different players. So for me, it's hard to be too negative.
Let's talk about the Premier League now. But first up, fans and back into the stadium. Now, when do you think we'll see a really good atmosphere at a Premier League stadium? And interesting what happens at the Amex in pre-season, isn't it? 2,500 people there.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of a good atmosphere, I'd be surprised if it was this side of Christmas. I mean, the trend seems to be going against sort of big gatherings again. I remember right when it first started, Barcelona issued a statement talking about February. And that felt at the time like really pessimistic and, it'll be before then. Yeah. But so maybe that kind of early thought of around about, that sort of second half of the season could be about when we're, going to see proper fans and proper atmosphere. Because even if you get 2,000 in, I've been watching the French football that has 5,000 in, has that feel of an under-21 type atmosphere, like rather than what you would normally expect from a Premier League game.
How much did fans and a real full stadia improve your performance, Gabby? And how difficult is it for the lads at the moment to play to their maximum 100% when there's no one in at the moment?
Listen, I'll be really struggling at the moment to play under the circumstances with no fans. I mean, I love playing at Villa Park with the fans. You knew you had to perform. If you didn't make a certain run or you didn't track a certain play, you're getting it off the fans. So you've got no choice. And then when you're playing away from home, you want to annoy the away fans by scoring and, do you know what I mean, playing well and getting a win. So them fans sort of urge you on to play well. So to go to these stadiums and play like without fans, for me, it's like it's a nightmare. And maybe for some players, it's the opposite. Maybe it's good. They can't handle the pressure of playing in front of fans, and they can play better without fans. But for me, I would more enjoy to play with a full stadium for sure.
You annoyed a lot of away fans with all the goals you scored in your career. Let's talk about some games coming up this weekend. I mean, we're really looking forward to it. First up, a London derby. Fulham against Arsenal. And Fulham had Barnsley first game of last season. Arsenal this. Amazing job that Scott Parker did, wasn't it? And great to see him signing a new contract as well.
Yeah, I mean, because you do wonder about teams when they make that step up, like how quickly the manager is forgotten for the job that they've done, and you can be out of it by October, can't you, or whatever. So I think it's important that Fulham do get that stability, because the last time they were in the Premier League it was very chaotic. It seemed to be buying players just randomly towards the end. There didn't appear to be much of a plan. And I like the way that Parker changed the team, I think, towards the end of the season. They weren't quite as free-flowing, but he sorted them out defensively, and I think we saw that, say, in the playoff final when they shut a really good Brentford team. They just shut them down completely, and Reed made a big difference, I think, in midfield for them. But it's one thing defending well against teams in the Championship. they're coming up against an Aubameyang who is, if he's not the best striker in the Premier League, he's not far off it.
Yeah, he's my favourite for the Golden Boot. Fulham lost at Barnsley in that first game last season, and Arsenal put 9 past them in 2 seasons ago. I mean, that doesn't mean anything, of course, now, but I mean, look, that's a difficult one for Fulham, isn't it? And how do you see them getting something out of this game?
It's a difficult one, but I feel like managers now have learnt the lesson. I think they're looking at Sheffield United coming up and not buying too many players and trusting the players that got you up and not buying a load of foreign players who aren't proven in the Premier League. So I feel like that's what Scott Parker's doing. He's going to give these players a chance, the ones that got them promoted. And I actually feel that first buzz of a game in the Premier League back in there, I feel like they'll do all right for them. I don't think it'll be as easy for Arsenal. The pressure's on Arsenal, isn't it, to get the result, because Arsenal fans, you know what they're like. They'll be knocking on the door if they don't beat Fulham on the first game and they've dropped 2 points already. So for me, I feel like Fulham can nick a draw for me, but I do feel like you said there, Aubameyang, for me, he'll be the difference. You know, when it's 0-0, he's dangerous, and if it's 89th minute, he will score. So I feel like I'm going for a Arsenal win.
You're going for an Arsenal win. What's your prediction, but also what have you made of the way that both sides have strengthened? We're still some weeks to go in the transfer window.
I mean, I think Arsenal have done quite well, considering that they haven't got the kind of finances of a Chelsea. To be able to bring in Gabriel, the centre half from French football, Willian, who, okay, long term, you're maybe not going to get 4 or 5 years out of him, but for the next couple, I think he's going to, he played well for Chelsea last season. So I feel like Arteta knows what he wants from the team, and it's just about them building bit by bit. And I think in 12 months' time, they'll be in a better spot than they are now. I think Ceballos, getting him back on loan, was a big one. You started to see that relationship with him and Xhaka really sort of develop, I think, in the last few months of the season, when, of course, Arsenal did really well.
So what are you going for?
I'm going to go for an Arsenal win. I just don't think that Fulham back four has got the capabilities to stop Arsenal scoring for 90 minutes. I think it'll be relatively comfortable 2-0 Arsenal, because, I mean, Arteta has tightened the Gunners up as well.
I'm going to go for a draw here, just because I think first game of the season,
Yep.
Fulham will be on a high
Yep.
from coming up. Arsenal would have had their players out on international duty.
Yep.
This is the time to play them, which leads us nicely into our next game as well, which is Liverpool against Leeds. Great to see Leeds back, 16 years away. Can they cause a shock at Anfield?
For me, no. I feel like Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp will have them all this week when they're back from international. He'll be saying, all
They'll
right.
only have a couple of days.
I know, but he'll be on them. He's that sort of manager, you can tell. He'll be like, all right, everyone's strengthened. We haven't really strengthened. They're going to be on us. They're going to be hunting us down. So we can't start the season without 3 points. And I feel like the players that they've got a lot of leaders in that squad. I feel like on that big pitch at Anfield, there'll be too much for Leeds. And I feel like could be a reality check for Leeds on the first day of the season.
Do you think you worry for Leeds, do you, by the sounds of it?
Yeah, I do, to be fair. I feel like they've got some good players that they had in the Championship, but they've only brought in Rodrigo, who is a good player, but if you look at his record last season, he wasn't great, goal-scoring record.
He won't start either. I'll be very surprised
And I
if he
feel
starts.
like they've lost the player, haven't they? The centre-half that's gone back to
Ben
Ben White.
Yeah.
But
So
they
I
brought
feel
in
like,
Robin Koch as well, as a German
but
international.
he's not proven, is he, in the big league? And we go on about the Premier League and the Championship, but if you're playing the top league yourself, you know what it's like. You can't just go from the Championship and think it's going to be, I can play the same football sometimes. And I feel like the way they play Leeds, it could be a disaster against Liverpool.
See, I think nowadays the jump from the Championship to the Premier League is not as big, but that's the sort of bottom 8 of the Premier League.
Yeah,
If
definitely.
you're talking about top 4, top 6,
Exactly,
yes, it is a big jump. Now, I personally feel I'm going to go for a big shock here. I'm going to go for a Leeds draw.
Really?
Just because I feel there's never a better time to play Liverpool for exactly the reasons I've been saying
100%.
at Arsenal. No fans.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have had the players to keep up that intensity
And
that they've kept up for the last couple of years.
Quick
Can be
point
very
as well.
difficult.
This is the frustrating thing about me about the Villa Man City game being rearranged, because you look at that game, you want to play the first game of the season. Man City players have been out on international duty. They're not sharp yet. You don't be playing Man City in November, so it's the same reason, like you says, that it could be possible.
So you've gone from 6-0 to 4-0 instead, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, I'm going on. I just feel like Liverpool, they've got some really greedy strikers who want the golden boot. You know what I mean? They'll be on it, get off the mark early doors. I just feel like Liverpool will be too strong for them.
How do you see it, Mark? And how do you see again how these two have strengthened so far?
I mean, Liverpool are always going to find it difficult, I think, to strengthen that 11 with the money that they've got, because they stepped back from Timo Werner. They were being linked with Havertz a little bit, but again, they're not in the market for that type of player. If they can get Thiago in and maybe move Wijnaldum on, I think that would improve the starting 11 and be a really clever way of doing it. I think that Klopp will hope that, say, Naby Keita, who we definitely haven't seen the best of since he arrived, can maybe step up as well and improve that starting 11. But it is difficult for Liverpool because they've got a really top sort of that 11.
Yeah. Don't you think as well, though, they're not going to put pressure on themselves by dropping points in the first game of the season?
Well, they won't want to.
You know what it would be like?
They won't want
yeah,
to.
They won't want to, will they? Because they'll feel like, you know what, everyone's going to jump on that now. Liverpool, second season syndrome, we call it, of winning the Premier League, and like they're struggling already. And I just feel like he'll have them fired up for this game, you know, and he'll tell them what Leeds is all about. And I feel like Leeds might need fans to help them get results as well. Especially
they will at Ellen Road, they won't at Anfield in this
Exactly.
particular
Yeah,
game.
exactly.
I just think they'll be on such a high from what's happened. The season only finished a few weeks ago. They're on a high naturally anyway. The club like Leeds United back in the Premier League.
Of course.
As I say, for the reasons of no fans of Liverpool at Anfield, I'm actually going to go for a draw here. But I think I've got a feeling I'm going to be in a minority again.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go for Liverpool to win and under 3.5 goals in this game. I think the way that people think that Leeds are a really attack-minded team because of the way that Bielsa's side press, but actually they do that as the defensive part of their game as much of anything else. Their goals averaged under 2.5 in last season's championship, one of the lowest in the championship. I'm not mad on Bamford. He's somebody that does a good work for the team. Is he going to score the goals? And if Rodrigo's not chucked in straight away, then they might struggle.
It's a different game, isn't it, when you put in Bamford and line up against Van Dijk, and you're like, you're not going to pace him, you're not going to strengthen him, you know, he's going to know what you're going to do. So, like you says, I feel like it's going to be under 3.5 goals for Liverpool, but maybe a 3-1 even. Maybe Leeds get a consolation goal. Maybe I'll go 3-1 Liverpool.
It's getting closer now, that gap, isn't it?
Yeah.
By the end of the show, I reckon I can persuade you to get a draw.
And all these Leeds, you know, ex-players are coming out of the woodwork, aren't they? So there's a big hype on Leeds. So for me, I don't know, with Aston Villa obviously staying up, you know, there's a bit of banter between ex-Villa players and ex-Leeds players. So for me, I want Liverpool to beat them.
Okay, I'll ask you a question. There's a question just coming to mind, but I'll ask you... no, in fact, I'll ask you now. Which of the promoted sides do you feel will finish highest? And are you also saying that whatever you say about Leeds, Villa will finish higher?
100%. I feel like Leeds are going to need Ellen Road buzzing for them to get the results that
like
people
Villa
think
needs
they're going to...
Villa Park buzzing.
Exactly, but Villa will get a few more away wins, I feel. But you know what? I feel Fulham, West Brom and Leeds, I feel like they're going to struggle, all three of them. They've not really strengthened a lot in the transfer window. And if you look at West Brom's squad, it's got some decent players, but for me, it's a championship squad. And you look at Fulham's as well. So I feel like I'm going to go Leeds, third bottom, West Brom, second bottom, Fulham, bottom.
Yeah. Really? And Villa top 6, yeah.
Villa.
Let's move on, shall we, for the team that's going to be finishing second bottom this season. West Brom, Leicester. West Brom returning to the Premier League. I mean, it's a great job that Slaven Bilic did last season. Blimey, what did you make of Grady Diangana going to West Brom and all that's happened with West Ham as well?
I can see why West Ham fans and players might be a bit upset, but there was a good point that one of the pundits made, that they've got Yarmolenko, they've got Bowen, they've got Snodgrass, they've got so many wingers. Maybe Moyes is for, well, I want to sell him and use that money to strengthen in other areas. So you don't know what's happened there, do you? It might not be the board and the owners that have sold him. It might be the manager himself.
I think that's key. We haven't heard
There's
David
so many,
Moyes'
exactly. There's so many
yet.
options that he's got there. Does he need...
Yeah, but are there good options?
I feel like Bowen's a good option. Snodgrass has showed what he can do. Yarmolenko scored some goals. But if you look at a captain, Mark Noble, coming out and tweeting what he tweeted, then it shows that how much the squad liked the player. So for me, maybe they should have kept him.
Okay, let's turn it back from West Ham to West Brom. What do you think of them in this particular game? And Leicester, you have to say, not as optimistic as they were at the start of last season.
Probably a good time to be playing Leicester. Evans injured and suspended. Madison not 100%. Pereira, the right back's not back to full fitness yet.
Chilwell gone. Yeah,
So they struggled with that squad options. Like when they had their best 11 out last year, they were up there in the top 4. It was when the injury sort of happened that they were unable to sustain that. So I thought that Leicester were a little bit short in the betting for this game. That's why I was going to go for a draw. Maybe the optimism, not because there's fans inside the Hawthorns, but just that we've got up might help West Brom to get a point in this game. Over the course of a season, I agree with Gabby, I think that West Brom will struggle. I look at them and just don't see who's going to score the goals for them. And even it's a step up for the defenders as well. Yeah. Pereira, the one that you think maybe could have this special Grealish-like season where he kind of does it on his own, but it's hard to do that. I mean, West Brom could get off to a fair start, but I've got them going down eventually.
Okay, prediction for this game?
I'm going to agree. I'm going to go for a draw. I feel like Leicester at this moment in time, how will their confidence be? Losing Chilwell. Maddison's not 100% fit, and I feel like they needed to improve their squad a little bit. And losing Chilwell, they've lost one of the best players in their team. So for me, it's going to be a struggle for them against a West Brom team who, like Fulham and Leeds, might be thinking, the first game, let's sit back. Let's not give Vardy no space in behind, and let's just try and nick a point to get off the mark for the season.
See, I'm going to go against you two again on this particular game.
Have you been told to?
It's good to be different. I do think West Brom will struggle this season, but I think in this, again, that bounce of coming up with Leicester in not a great place at the moment, I think both teams will score, but I think I'm going to go for West Brom here.
There's nothing to lose either, is there, for the teams that will come up this first game? It's like, I have this first game.
It's almost a free hit,
yeah,
isn't it?
You win, you
but
lose,
if you start really well, then that momentum can carry on. Okay, next game, Spurs versus Everton. I know you're looking forward to this one, Mark, aren't you? Last game not that long ago, 6th of July, Spurs won, but how different will Everton look now?
Well, I think over the course of the season, Everton will look very different. They've done their business quite late, and so for Ancelotti's point of view, to not have had James and Disarray in for pre-season, Alan only joined, I think it was on Saturday, not ideal, is it, going into a first match away from home against a team that, for all their problems last season, still finished in the top 6. It wasn't
a
a
worst
classic
finish for, 6 years?
Yeah, it was. I mean, Kane and Son missed a lot of the season, and I think if Pochettino had that team without Kane and Son, you would have seen a big drop-off. I mean, they are the two absolute sort of stars of that team. It's not going to be a great game. Mourinho probably is one of those managers that is perfectly happy for no fans to be inside because he can play. It doesn't matter if it's home or away. He can just shut the game down if Tottenham get in front, and that's what he did in a number of matches last season after lockdown. So I'm going to go for a Tottenham win, and I think it might be another low scorer. They beat them 1-0 in that game just before the end of the season. I wouldn't be surprised if it finished the same, but I think long-term Everton should do okay.
Yeah, I've gone exactly the same as well, 1-0, just one goal. I think he'll keep it tight, Mourinho. But what do you make of the signings that Ancelotti's made, especially James Rodriguez? What kind of James Rodriguez are they getting right now?
That's why I think there's been a big buzz maybe from football fans, but I'm feeling to myself, are we seeing the James Rodriguez from the guy who got the golden boot, was it the World Cup?
Yeah,
who
2014.
Went to Real Madrid. I don't think we're going to see that. I think we're going to see one that is going to be like, wow, it's cold in England, it's cold up north, it's faster pace than he's used to. And I feel like he's a great player, isn't he? But he's not a quick player. So I feel like the teams that he's been around superstars, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Maybe this time
well, they've had a lot of the ball as well.
Exactly. He might be having to chase around, and so it's going to be different for him. Is he going to enjoy playing with like Calvert-Lewin, who likes to play in behind? Does he prefer to play with strikers that like to play the tiki-taka football? You don't know how it's going to go, do you? And for me, I feel like, will he be homesick? Will he enjoy being living in Liverpool? Will he enjoy living? He was in Manchester. Will he enjoy it? Will it be a bit of a culture shock for him? So all these things are going to be, we'll find that soon enough, won't we?
I think Everton have made a lot of mistakes in the transfer market where they've bought players from bigger clubs and they're on the downgrade rather than buying, the next James Rodriguez who sort of wants to get to Real Madrid. They're buying the one that
was a 2-year deal they signed.
Yeah.
What does that show you?
Yeah, it's not much.
You don't really sign 2-year deals at 28. Maybe they're worried that like he's slowing down. Maybe at 30 he's going to be even slower. So we're not stuck in with big wages on a long-term deal, because you signed a 4-year deal, wouldn't you? Like Callum Wilson did at 28. So for me, I'm not. And they've got a lot of other options in that position as well, Everton. So for me, I feel like Spurs will win the game. It's going to take Everton a few games to get their new signings up to scratch.
Okay, I've agreed with you on this. The Spurs home win looks like. Brighton versus Chelsea. Busy transfer window for Chelsea, Mark.
I mean, they've really gone for it. You know, I was wondering just what is success for Chelsea this year now, because it's difficult to know, because this is a team that's, I still think, going to struggle to get into the top two with the way that City and Liverpool are set. Will Abramovich be happy if Chelsea finish third or fourth and have a fair cup run? To me, I'd be slightly. Frank Lampard wants all these players in.
I'd be frightened if I was Frank.
Spurs fan talking.
No.
I would be frightened if I was Frank Lampard, in the sense as if he doesn't get off to a good start and you get into like the October, November time and these signings aren't working and they're 7-8 points off the top. You know, he could be one of the ones that gets the sack early doors. Yeah, because you can't spend that. I know people are making excuses. Had the transfer ban, so if they spend 200 mil, maybe it's only 100 because they didn't spend in that window.
They lost the best player in the Premier League last season, let alone Chelsea as well.
And the money they got for Hazard, you know, so the net spend is only like 40 million, isn't it, for Chelsea? I feel so maybe that'll work in his favour. So you've not spent 200, you spent 40.
Does Abramovich feel like that?
That's what I mean.
Listen, we know there's a recent history. Actually, it's just the history of Abramovich not lasting long with managers. I think he wanted to second time round with Jose Mourinho, but it went that pear-shaped that he had to do it. I think with Frank, he realises, let's not forget, this is only Frank's third season as a manager and just second at Chelsea. And when you think about how far City and Liverpool have been ahead and how many years they've had and how much money they've spent over the years, are we really saying that Chelsea should be challenging for the title?
I think
Or are we not just saying you need to be able to cut the gap here?
I wouldn't put Chelsea in a title challenge. I'm thinking third. They're fighting for third again.
Yeah.
I feel like Man City and Liverpool are too far ahead. And these players might not click straight away. So many new signings.
Exactly.
It might take them 10 games to get the right team, the right formation. And he's got that many players, hasn't he, that we're going about these young players that he's giving a chance. What does this lie for, like Mount, Abraham, Hudson-Odoi, Gilmore? Are those players going to be just playing the Carabao Cup? It's true, isn't it?
I think that's an issue, isn't it, for the manager, keeping all them players. But Havertz, Timo Werner, Ziyech, Thiago Silva, Chilwell, they improved Chelsea's starting 11. That's like half a team. We expect a goalkeeper to come in as well that can maybe save some shots.
The keeper has to come in. But Gabby said, and you hear it as well, not every player is going to come in and hit the ground running.
No way.
So even if half of those players come in, it will improve them, but we can't expect everyone to do it. And suddenly everyone's saying, look, they've spent this money, they should be challenging. You're not having that.
Well, it's just not how it works. I mean, we can sit here and be quite sensible about it, but it's not how it works. If they lose to Brighton...
Chelsea fans as well, they might be like, you know, we spent all this money, we want to be back winning titles.
Chelsea fans
they'll
still give Frank
time.
time.
Yeah, I feel like they will, yeah. But I feel as well that Chelsea being so far behind Liverpool, for any team, it's going to be hard to bridge that gap in one transfer window. He might need all these players to have a season, and then next season, bam, Abramovich says you have to go and fight for the title.
I'm with you on that one. Prediction.
Brighton win. I feel like Chelsea will get the result, but it'll be a tight game. I'm going 2-1 Chelsea.
Yeah, I mean, Brighton are an awkward team to play against because they keep the ball quite well. I was thinking maybe draw half-time, Chelsea full-time, where maybe these new players, it doesn't quite happen straight away, but you look at that depth of squad that Chelsea have got. If a Havertz doesn't start and he brings him on, or there's a Mount coming on, or Abraham or a Giroud, you know, he's got big and good options off the bench. That's maybe where Chelsea get the win.
Yeah. Chelsea win 2-0 for me, and I can see them scoring more than one goal. Okay, next up, the best fantasy football player pick this weekend. Each of us picks a player that we think will perform the best on the opening weekend. Let's start with you, Mark.
Well, Chelsea there, I think Timo Werner, he's somebody, if you have a look at his Bundesliga goal-scoring record, Only Robert Lewandowski, the best striker, maybe even the best player in the world last season, scored more goals than him. I'm expecting him to take advantage of those gaps that maybe develop against Brighton, because he's somebody explosive pace. He scored against them in pre-season after a couple of minutes. I think he'll probably be on penalties as long as Jorginho doesn't start as well. No foreign player has ever won the Premier League Golden Boot in their first season. So that's the reason why I'm not going for him to win the Golden Boot. But I still think he can sort of push on towards 20 goals this season.
Yeah, he might get that first goal, which every striker wants.
Yeah, they need it, don't they?
At the start of the season. What do you think?
I'm going to go for Aubameyang for me. I actually play fantasy football and he's my captain already. It's already secured. Because as well, this season he's gone from a striker to a midfielder on the app, because he's been playing a lot of games left wing, and you get more points as a midfielder on the app. So for me, I just feel it's going to be a tough game against Fulham, but everything he's touching in the moment is a goal, isn't it? You see the goal in the Community Shield.
Yeah.
It's a goal, you know, everything he's doing, the FA Cup, it's a goal, every shot he's taking is a goal. So I feel like it'll be a tight game against Fulham, but I fancy him to score and even to maybe win a penalty, score a penalty as well. So I think he's a good one to have in your side.
Scott, we've gone for two sort of really expensive ones. I hope you've got an
You
under
have.
the radar
I've gone a little bit out there, to be honest with you.
Antonio.
No, I've gone for a goalkeeper.
Oh,
In a
don't
Meslier.
start. Don't start.
Leeds.
Meslier.
Yeah, because...
What's going on here?
listen, I watched him last season. He came in for Casilla, did really well, calm, composed.
The first game's Liverpool, though.
I know, which is why I think that it's a big surprise. I think he will
He needs to get clean
make
sheet
some
for points,
saves.
though. He needs a clean sheet for points.
I'm going out
He'll
there
make a lot of
first game
saves.
the
He'll
season.
probably make a lot of saves.
Very, very impressed with him last season, and I watched a lot of him when he came into the Leeds side. And because I'm going to go for, which we'll come on to just a sec, in terms of the game as well, I think for this weekend he could be an absolute surprise package, but also a star. But again, you're not having that at all. I can see it. I can see it. in your
Honestly,
eyes.
you know what? I do hear what you're saying about maybe some saves, but I feel like when you're playing that app, you don't get points for saves, you get points for clean sheets.
Yeah.
So I feel like Liverpool are going to score at some point, aren't they?
I'd rather have Aubameyang than
Aubameyang.
Well,
all
you know,
day.
listen, if
All
you want to
day.
go, you know, the obvious, then that's completely
I
up
hope
to
you're
you.
not. I hope if you play the game, you're not betting on it, because you're losing some money with that.
You can tell by me saying that I don't play the game. Okay, last up is team treble. Each of us picks one team that we think will win this weekend. I'm going a little bit out there in terms of a draw, but the odds are still pretty good. And give us an insight into why. Gabby, let's start with you.
So, for me, I'm going Arsenal to win. I feel Fulham will give a good account of themselves, but as I said, Aubameyang, everything he's touching is goals. I can't see any goals coming from Fulham's attacking players against this new look Arsenal defence as well, which is stronger. So I'm going to go for an Arsenal win and Aubameyang to get the winner.
Okay, understandable. Mark?
I'm going to go for Southampton to win away at Crystal Palace. Southampton had the sort of joint third best away record last season in the Premier League. 9 wins, only Man City and Liverpool had more. Remarkable, really, from Hassan Hüttel's team, that actually you relied on them more away from home than what you did at home, probably because of their counter-attacking football. If Danny Ings carries on where he left off, you've got one of the best strikers in the Premier League in terms of goal return. I like the way that they're set up. I like the coach. I think he's very good. I think that there's minimal changes as well, so they can hit the ground running. Palace could be a season of struggle. I do like Eze, and I think he can add a bit of creativity, much needed creativity to that team. But they're still very reliant on 1 or 2 players, and that's. I think Southampton are just a better all-round side.
Okay. I'm going to go for a draw here. I think we know what I'm going to say.
0-0.
Leeds at Liverpool. As I say, I think this is a fantastic opportunity for any team that would be playing Liverpool, first game of the season at Anfield, that have to go there. But even for a team like Leeds, massive club, the euphoria of being up there for the first time in 16 years, no fans. Liverpool players, they've only had a couple of days to... I mean, everyone knows their role anyway. But can they go straight into it? That's the question. And I just think Leeds will be so much up for it. Calvin Phillips will be buzzing after getting his first England cap as well. I'm going, I'm going for a Leeds draw.
I'm not sure. But
So what are we saying? You're saying an Arsenal win.
Yep.
I'm going for Southampton.
Southampton, I'm going for a Leeds draw. at Anfield. I hope that doesn't finish that treble off. 22-1, apparently. That's what I'm being told. So
What, Leeds win? Or draw?
Did the whole treble.
Oh, the whole
treble.
all three of
the
them.
treble. Yeah.
Well,
So.
basically-
Your one's put it up, boy.
My one's put it right up. There's you, Aubameyang and Arsenal.
Mine and his, you wouldn't get odds on, I don't think.
There's a shock you've been a striker. Listen, Gabby, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed your company. Good to
you,
see
guys.
you.
Nice to see you.
Mark, as ever, thank you.
Cheers, Scott.
Okay, that's it for this week's Different League. Thank you to our guests. Really enjoyed it. Good fun. We'll be back with you next week. Lots to talk about. We'll look back on what happened at the weekend. We'll look forward to the games next weekend as well. Thanks also to Betfred. And of course, remember, please gamble responsibly.